Everyone keeps saying that China is leading in electric vehicles, software-defined vehicles, and mobility in general, and it's because of the massive amount of investments and engineers. But that's half of the truth. The real reason is much more hidden and much more powerful. It's the people. It's the consumers and their mindset. Yes, it's not the factories, not the subsidies, but the people. And I have the data to prove it. So right now, I'm not at my home studio. I'm at IAA Mobility 2025 in Munich. And the first thing that surprised me was that wherever I wanted to go, there were so many Chinese players. If you want to see an electric vehicle, there is not just one, there are plenty of Chinese players over here. If you want to find out diesel cars, or let's say specifically Jeeps, off-roading, you will also find Chinese players over here. Let's talk about battery or some other technologies and suppliers. Even there are a lot of Chinese companies present over here. This led me to think, what are the Chinese players doing differently? Because in Europe, we see the headlines that the automotive industry is going down. It's not just the headlines. I've experienced it firsthand, because the reason I'm making so many YouTube videos and LinkedIn posts at the moment is because I've been recently laid off as well. But when I see the Chinese players, it seems like they have everything in grip. And because of that, I attended a lot of conferences and talked to a lot of people from Europe as well as from China to understand what is happening. Yes, billions have gone into R&D in EVs, smart mobility, whatever you want to name it. There are plenty of engineers. This is a huge population that we are talking about. But the real driver of China's speed isn't just how they build the technology, but how much their consumers are ready to embrace it. So now let's break it down. Number one, they are very forgiving when it comes to mistake, and they expect iterations. In Europe, one software bug, one glitch, or something going wrong, this makes a lot of headlines and sort of kills the adoption, and also puts the OEM on the back foot, and they are much more hesitant to roll out their features. Whereas in China, the customers are expecting things are going to evolve. They are ready to accept unready software, or let's say the beta software version, into their cars, which let's say we call it software 1.0, but they know over time it's going to become software 2.0. And with further iteration, it's going to become software 3.0. So they don't just expect iteration, they demand it. Secondly, the Chinese consumers are much more liberal. They are craving for changes and they are ready to accept it. While Western consumers think, why fix when it's not broken? The Chinese consumers, on the other hand, are asking, like, what's the latest technology? When are you going to roll it out? Because that is my lifestyle and sort of my identity as well. A few months ago, I saw a documentary from a German media channel. I have to find it. But what was really interesting, they were recently in the auto exhibition in Shanghai this year. And they asked some young generation people,
Würden Sie auch eine deutsche Marke kaufen? Ich glaube nicht, dass ich das tun würde. Das ist eher was für die Generation meines Vaters.
Number three, they are willing to pay for the innovation. They know the innovation will cost something, but they are not hesitant to try it out. They say, okay, I will test it and I will pay for it. This makes, let's say, a positive feedback loop, because the OEMs know that they have the motivation. They know the market is accepting. Let's make more innovation in the car. Whereas on the other Western side, you have to be really conservative. How much innovation is too much and where it's going to overwhelm the consumers here. So Volkswagen has a really tough job, and I would say also other German OEMs, how to balance the customer demands in Europe as well as in China, because they cannot do whatever the customer is expecting in China and try to translate in Europe, because people are not going to like it, because there are a lot of consumers who like the buttons and they're not really a fan of touchscreens. Number four, the cars are not just cars, they are more like lifestyle spaces. So in China, the cars aren't just for transport. It has to give, let's say, a character of your lifestyle. It has to give you feeling like you're perhaps in car, but you're also perhaps feeling like you're at home in cinema. And all those really extreme examples I'm giving, but this is kind of true, because I recently did an interview with Felix Hammer, and he mentioned he was in China.
In the front, and then it had another 6K screen in the back. And I'm talking like a meter wide, maybe more, like ridiculous, just huge. But these vans in the back, there's just business class seating, massage seating, big screens.
Okay.
Everything luxurious, like S-class luxury in a random van that doesn't look that special from the outside, but the inside is just jet line stuff.
And this is what I mean. They are thinking in that dimension. Yesterday, I even heard something different. Now I need to search it. That's the Xiaomi cars, SU7 or YU7. You basically have one ecosystem. You have your cell phone and your car and all the devices from Xiaomi on one software platform that are there. So in theory, what I heard was that you could basically control the temperature of your fridge, or you can turn on your washing machine basically while sitting in the car. I still have time to think how it is going to work, but I would like to see. Let me know if it's correct or wrong, but I will have to do my research once I'm back home. So these were the studies that I got from the NoiseSoft. So Dr. Angela Wang was presenting it. Really great session, but now let's look at another session which perfectly complements it. It was from Boston Consulting Group, BCG. And over there, Dr. Zansholzer and Dr. Albert Vass were showing how ready the Chinese customers and US and European as well as the Germany customers are to sit in and take a ride in autonomous robotaxi. And I'm not talking about 5 years down the road. I'm just talking with the current level of technology that is existing. How willing are people to sit and take a ride in that robotaxi? So here are the results. China, number one, 61% people trust the technology and they would like to sit in an autonomous robotaxi. US around 34%, Europe around 30%, and the lowest I would say was Germany at 24% only. So that's not just a preference gap, that's a completely different level of relationship with technology, how much trust is over there, and how much people are conservative or are liberal for new technologies. And here's why it matters, because it creates what I call an acceleration loop. Companies are much more bold while launching new products, new features. They take risk because they know that the customers will pay for it and they are ready to test it. The customer adopt them immediately. They are taking a lot of cars on the road. This gets the companies to do incremental improvement, which means that the cars are on the road. They have plenty of amount of data, not just from their labs and simulation, but they are seeing real life data from highways, from city drivings, from suburbs. Name whatever these cars are driving. They can see how the technology is really working, what they designed for, and now they can improve on it. So they can do software improvements or they can do iterations by improving the hardware as well. So they know that second generation will also be coming. The products are improving at much faster rate in incremental speeds, which means that it's not so much cost intensive because the companies can gradually over the time, actually with the number of those features in the field, they can actually use economies of scale when it comes to hardware and make it cheaper actually. So the cycle of innovation is much rapid, whereas in Europe, in the West, we are talking about disruptive improvement. So the OEMs are really hesitant to launch untested, or actually they are tested, but they are not really 100% sure it's going to deliver absolutely zero failure rates. So they cannot bring out those features in the market. So they invest a lot of R&D. They are still doing in their prototype phase, they are still doing in their simulations, but they do not get the real feedback data from the market. The customers are not willing to pay for such technology. The laws and regulation also puts OEMs at a huge risk, I would say. Also, the people who are reporting on those things are making a lot of headlines and putting them down really a lot. And also the companies are much slower. I would say they do not appreciate the culture of fast changes. We are still living in the past, I would say. What I meant with disruptive improvement is that they took years to develop and refine one technology, so they want to recover the cost from it. So what ends up happening is that this technology, once it is approved, firstly, it starts with luxury car segments, because where the cars you can sell for 80,000 euros or maybe 100,000 euros, maybe you can add 5,000 euros more or 10,000 euros more. The people are still going to buy it. You do not have this luxury in the mid-car segment where the price is around 30,000, 40,000 euros. So this luxury car segment's data is really small. So that's why it takes years and years to trickle it down to the masses, and we are basically slow. So to summarize, money builds the foundation, engineers build the products, but it's the consumer who determine the speed of innovation. So before ending this video, I will ask you guys also a question. What do you think? What needs to change in Europe and US so the technology can be improved at much faster rate? Are we being too cautious for our own good? I have this vision that changing the customer preferences will be much harder but the regulations needs to be improved because they are slowing down the adoption. And also one thing I feel is that if the consumer are not really willing to purchase the innovation, we tend to be extremely harsh while berating all the good things that are happening from the European OEMs. So perhaps not always putting the European OEMs down or US OEMs down could be a good approach. But I'll let you decide. I would like to hear your perspective as well. I would like to keep it conversational. And I will be writing a lot of articles, deep dive articles, once I'm back from IAA. And please make sure to check out my channel if you like the video. Hit like for the video, subscribe to my channel because it gives the algorithm the signal that this video was something good. Otherwise, it will be a video will be watched by maybe 50 people only. Kindly check out my website. I will put everything down in the comments below. See you in the next video. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.